Yeah, so it's funny. I know this isn't a football thing, but I got to say it because I don't know if I'll ever get another outlet to go out there and say it. But I love over the course of the weekend, like we saw MLS do this, we saw Major League Baseball do this. Everybody had a rivalry weekend. We had El Trafico in LA, LAFC against the Galaxy. That was cool. Angels, Dodgers. The Angels, as a matter of fact, have been going up the 5 freeway, and I say the 5 freeway. San Diego, LA, Sacramento. I almost said Oakland, but like it's cool, and it's been I know like it's a rivalry. You know, they're trying to force these rivalries, not to the extent of like trying to force the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese rivalry, but like still trying to feed rivalries, and the NFL just won't do it. It's like God, and the schedule release came out, and I've said this time and time again. I'm like, why are divisional rivals playing the first week of the season? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't take the time to go and look at other sports. Like I can't imagine. I don't know if Arsenal like opens up with Tottenham. Although for a lot of you fans out there, do not be rooting for Tottenham to beat Man United. Please do not do that. But I know, no. It's Tottenham. We cannot have Tottenham get no trophies for Tottenham. But I wish the NFL would embrace that. Like I wish. And I feel like it was like this, like when the Bears used to play Green Bay in Milwaukee, I feel like it was the right. Some of the olds will be able to swing in here and tell me. It was always the same weekend. Like I think it was like the fourth week or whatever it was. The sidelines were on the same, benches were on the same side. It was cool. I wish the NFL embraced that more. That's just the thing. But in that guys, I thought today I would bring in my biggest rival. So I'm going to bring in my biggest rival and go head to head. And Sammy, let's go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? It is time for Take It to the Rank. A great night of football and sport. We have got Take It to the Rank right now. We have the Tape Never Lies Network coming to you in about 90 minutes. No challenge. I don't know how to live my Wednesday nights with no challenge, but we do have AEW on this evening. We have a lot of other things going on, so thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate it. And you're sitting there and you're like, well, Cynthia's on the show today. And he said the biggest rival. The biggest rival. There's I'm just kidding. But let's waste no time. From the NFL Network, and more importantly, from her appearances on this show. She is one of the brightest minds in all of football, just as a human being. You don't have to quantify it. We don't have to bring out some special show, but one of the brightest minds in all of football, Cynthia Frelund. Cynthia, how are you? It's been way too long. How are you? Are you good?
I'll send a payment to you for that really nice intro. Don't worry. It'll be coming. I'm good. It's kind of crazy that it's weird because it's slow during the season because they kind of hammer us with a lot of homework and stuff, but yeah. And then we get out of the off season. And it's like, where's this? Like the time is going, it's like 106 or something days till the season starts. And you're kind of like, well, I'm ready to go now. Like if they could space out a little, like give us we need a bye week. Like that's really just what it is. So it's wild though. Cause it's like, I get not enough. Like I'm rank deficient right now. I need to get a supplement,
It is so true. And, I watched your coverage at the draft, and we'll get into that in a second. But it's funny, and I know people aren't tuning in to hear us complain about things, but it's funny because during the season, I think they do. But during the season, it's funny because you go out there and it's nonstop, and there's so many things going on that you're like, you find a way to work it in. So it's all like, you're like, I know that I don't have a chance to really veer off or do everything. You're going to be regimented. Got to be ready to go. No snooze alarm, nothing like that. You're just going. In the off season, you're just kind of like there's not as much to do, but when they ask you to do something, you're like really not offended, but you're like, really? Like, okay. Like I work 1 hour a week for the NFL Network right now, doing the insiders on Friday night. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go in. Like, no, it's funny how that works. Like your perception of time goes up. Although I was in the building this week and Friday because I was taping my yearly record predictions. I got back on the stage, so we didn't have to do that at home with
That's
not
great.
a lot of editing. Oh my God. And the kids, you know, they love it. And I can't wait to tell you. And I'll spill the beans right here. Not a great record for the Lions. Not as great. It doesn't matter. You know what? Here's what I found too. And you know this because you put out your win probabilities. You're not making a prediction. You put out your win probabilities. And I use it as a little bit of a guide. And I saw yours and you had the Commanders for 10 wins. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Because they're probably, let me ask you, were the Commander fans upset that you just said 10 wins? Like, what do you mean? We're going to win 13 this year.
I don't think there is a single fan base that is happy with me. Because here's the thing. They all hate fractional wins, which is, I mean, I get, who do you win 0.4 of a game? And I'm like, it is not a 50-50 coin flip. The point is like, I'm done explaining math. Like, if you want to get mad at me about the decimal point, that's fine. If you need that in your life, you can do that. But it's not like you look at it relative to the other ones. And if you'd like to measure it against something in Las Vegas, that's what you really should think about.
There it is.
But the point is people are insane and they're all mad at me always anyway. So now I'm just like, okay. I'm like,
unfairly, mind you. Unfairly, mind you. It's
I
math.
mean, look,
You're mad
right
at
now
math.
I'm still riding that I picked the Super Bowl like contenders and winner correct. This time, it's like I'm gonna have to ride that for a little longer until I get upset about people in my mentions.
Well, the good news is nobody ever gives you credit. You know, I do say that. I do say that, and then I realize that I'm insanely popular in Denver. If you look at my Instagram cities of like where are you popular, Denver is top 4. Actually, it might even be top 3. But like Chicago #1, and then actually Denver's there like with Los Angeles, which is, you know, interesting. That's the only fan base outside of Chicago and maybe Jacksonville that I can truly make happy. And it is fun. And we're going to get into the Bears win probability and all that stuff. But I gotta keep people here. But I do want to talk, but we haven't seen each other for a while. So there's a couple of things I do want to ask you about football wise. I'll save the other stuff for the other things. The draft. You're a Lions fan. I'm a Bears fan. The draft in Lambeau. It looked really stupid. Was it? No, I'm joking. How was that draft experience? I got to be honest with you. Because I always joke. Because Steve Mariucci came up to me one time. He's like, Adam, have you ever been to Lambeau Field? And I go, no. He's like, you got to go. And I'm like, no, I really don't. Nope. I'm good. I'm fine if I never go. I truly believe that. What was the draft experience like at Lambeau Field, though?
It was awesome. I mean, look, I will say Midwesterners are the best. Obviously, we all agree with that. It's such a charming place. You get it. When you're there, you totally get it. There, you know, I will, to be perfectly honest, you didn't feel any of the like Shedeur Sanders nonsense there. You felt people that were, you know, having a little fun and excited to be there. You saw moms and dads and daughters and sons and all this stuff. Like you saw everyone just having a great time. And it was about football, but and there were a lot of Packers fans, obviously, but you know, booing the Bears was like almost as much fun for them as like cheering for themselves, which to be fair, like that's the same thing for Chicago fans. So, you know, you're talking about rivalries earlier, like it's a fun rivalry. Like, God forbid, like, you know, you can acknowledge that Lambeau's a great football town. That just means like, great, like the rivalry is strong and healthy and good. And it wasn't in any way as non-negative as it can be. Obviously every Bears pick was booed because that's fun. Like, that's just how it goes. Right. Like, so but it was a very special experience, and those people are incredible. And I will say, cheese curds are great, but it's impossible to eat healthy in Green Bay, like borderline impossible. So I mean, if I see another cheese curd for at least, 6 months, it'll be too soon.
Yeah, I understand all of that. Yeah, there's no getting around. I mean, but it's like that with a lot of the Midwest places.
For sure.
If I'm going to Chicago, I know, like, I'm not even going to try. Like, it's to the point of like, a couple of times, you go back, you're like, I'm giving up. Like, I'm not even going to try. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to eat like garbage because I'm going to have the Italian beef and I'm like, I'm going to do it. And so you want to be that way. Mm-hmm. And you do such a great job though, because obviously you work for the NFL Network. It's a lot of fun. Great seeing you out there and doing your thing. I have to ask though, because I was thinking about this for me too, but it's like, have you ever called a pick for the Lions?
I have not. I would like to do it someday. I know
this is garbage. And I no disrespect to our good friend, Tom Grassi, who I love, who got an opportunity, and thank God for the NFL Network for putting that on the air, for actually airing Tom Grassi's pick. Not so much the host who was talking over him, but listen, stop talking. You can let Tom, Tom must be loving this moment. You know what he's not loving? You talking. Let him do the pick. That's all. So I love Tom, and I've said this to his face. So don't clip this. I've said this, not you, but I've said this to Tom. I said the great thing about you is you root for the Packers. Nobody famous roots for the Packers. You're very high on their list of who are celebrity pickers. Detroit, Chicago, big cities that have a lot of people who are above us. We've got a depth chart that we can't crack. We're playing quarterback at Michigan in the mid 90s. Where can we get past Brian Griese and Tom Brady and Drew Henson? I don't think so. So we've got a lot of competition there. Drew Henson was at, he had
Drew
to play.
Henson started in front of Tom Brady, and Drew Henson had he was a baseball star. He was very multiple.
He was fine, but people always ask, why did Drew Henson start over Tom Brady? It's well, I know it's a common thing now with NIL, but at the time, to get him out of New York, where he was a Yankees farmhand, you're well, you get to start over this Tom Brady person. And it wasn't a thing like now where you're oh my God, I sat for a quarter. I'm leaving. I'm going to go play at San Jose State.
Don't get me started on that. The NIL is fine. I think NIL makes sense, but the transfer portal rules, the transfer portal rules are just crazy. Can you imagine as an adult with think about how much money these guys who transfer, a lot of the kids who transfer make, right? So if I'm being hey, I just got paid $3 million. You didn't play me enough. I'm going to go to Oklahoma now. Screw you.
Yeah.
If that'd be the same as me being if the NFL Network paid me well, being you didn't put me on the right shows, I'm going to CBS. Doesn't work like that. You have to honor your commitments. I don't know. I think that's the thing that needs to change. I just think it makes it hard for the schools and also hard for the fans. Dylan Gabriel, who claims him? I guess Oregon.
Yeah.
Maybe?
I would think so. The team that drafts you is the one that goes on your football card now. Because I don't know. Eventually you could look at the stats and be oh, he started. It wasn't San Diego State, but start somewhere. He had 3 different colleges, Dylan Gabriel, before he finally became that was wild.
Before he's finally a Brown, 3.
Yeah, he's a journeyman in college,
and he's not even a first round pick.
But this is a thing that the transfer portal, to my estimation, it benefits the big schools. It benefits it. No, let me tell you, this is my theory. Okay. So who was the kid who transferred out of Tennessee because he wasn't making enough money? The quarterback who was making $3 million, and then he wasn't getting playing time and they needed to bench him. So he was able to go. I think he went to UCLA and take a pay cut, goes. But the thing of it is, because in the NFL, you can't allow that. The Browns can't just release Deshaun Watson because he has a guaranteed contract. I wish the colleges were on the hook for these, because then people wouldn't leave. You'd be well, I can't leave. But and these colleges would go broke, paying all these players and paying out bad contracts. I want to see what college do you not like? Ohio State. I would love to see
Ohio State, but we can say that. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to see Ohio State saddled with a Bobby Bonilla type contract. We're oh yeah, they're still paying Ted Ginn Jr. For all this stuff, which would make it a lot of fun. I think because I went to Cal State Fullerton and Latrell Wrightsell. Fullerton goes out and it's a basketball player, finds this great guy. He's amazing. And then Alabama's we're going to give you $1 million. Of course you're going to leave to go to Alabama. It's a better college experience to go to Alabama. I get it. We get nothing. There should at least be the international soccer rules where you're okay, well, we got to give Cal State Fullerton 10% of his salary to come over here or whatnot. And we're getting wildly off topic, but it's sports related.
I think someone needs to fix it. I don't know if it's me or you or like whatever, but that it just feels like that's going to be, to me, like now you only have 2 good football divisions, right? Like SEC, Big Ten. Other than that, you're kind of middling. And then, in terms of the perception, and then you've got like now the TV rights will be negotiated weirdly. So what you're really doing is you're like pushing inventory of bad games to over here, which no one will watch, and good games here, which it just makes things weird and harder to like love the purity of the sport. Like you're not going to get, like you're never going to get the Appalachian State beating Michigan week 1 in this format once you see it to its end. And that's what people love. Like, I mean, not Michigan fans, but people love David and Goliath stories, or like these interesting notes on things where, you're like, it feels like for the freaking love of the game, not just like, oh, well, this guy, Quinn Ewers transferred to this and he's making this, like, no, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very rare. And like the guy who's kind of stuck it out, like Arch Manning has been at Texas forever, it feels like.
Yeah, but like, he's all right. He's doing just fine. And his last name is Manning, so he's also doing just fine.
It's funny that he's the one that's being loyal when you think about how Eli started his NFL career. But that's a story for another day.
His uncle, though, Yeah. Like everyone's got an uncle that you're like, ooh, Uncle Bill. It's a little weird, like a
little weird. Oh, Arch Manning. And you know what? The good news is the way that I have the Saints playing this, like I was doing the Saints record prediction, and I'll just spoil it. I'm doing the thing, and it's like, and Puma, our stage manager, is on the set, and he gets so bummed when I have a team with a losing record. He's like, oh, Ranker, how can you? And I'm like looking, and I'm hitting all these things. And like, I'm trying to like talk over the fact that I'm hitting all these L's. But I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, hey, a lot of things could happen, but, and they're 2-14. You're like, but they could be set up for Arch Manning. I'm like, this makes the most sense of anything. Like, I don't know which fan base feels like they're owed a Manning, whether it's the Giants, the Saints, Indianapolis might feel like that way. Denver, but Denver's got Bo Nix, so they don't need it.
Denver's fine. I don't think Denver's thinking about it.
They can take themselves out of this conversation.
They also have the craziest defense ever and got better on defense. I don't know how that was possible. Anyway.
Yeah. I as a spoiler alert, I have the Broncos winning the AFC West this year.
I love it.
I can't wait.
You know what we're going to do? I'm going to make you do this, and we'll talk fantasy live into having us do it. I think we should we should each get to pick like 3 at a position. So 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, 3 wide receivers, whatever. It's like a certain number, and like line their stats up just for the whole year, so that just to see, because I want to do this with you specifically for tight ends, and I want to force you to take that guy in Atlanta that we always have a joke about. And then, I just think we could make a really fun game out of it.
I'm back in on Kyle Pitts. It doesn't matter. So
I know you are. That's why I think it's so funny. But I think about the tight end situation in Denver, and I'm like, we have some interesting things there, right? So that
Evan Ingram. I mean, Evan Ingram in Denver is going to be really good. Speaking of tight ends, though, I want to talk about Colston Loveland for a moment.
Yep.
Obviously, you were in Green Bay when this happened. Now, again, I wrote about this. Because actually, a lot of the Bears fans are like, hey, credit to you because you are one of the ones who said, don't ignore Colston Loveland. This was me thinking. It's my bold prediction for NFL.com was that, hey, look, 2 tight ends are going to go in the top 10, thinking that Tyler Warren would go to like 2. Jacksonville, obviously they traded up, or maybe even Carolina or somebody like that. So I thought 2 tight, and I said, don't ignore Colston Loveland at number 10. I sort of loved it. I was one of the few who was like, I kind of like this move. I think it's great. Coming into the season, what's your read on Colston Loveland coming to the Bears?
I mean, my take on Colston Loveland prior to anyone drafting him was that he had like kind of a Sam Laporta mold, and meaning the stats weren't like whoosh, so splat. Like Tyler Warren's stats were better. Great. Yeah. So was Harold Fannin Jr. It's like, okay. But the thing that's different is like Loveland's a bit younger. He's in that same mold as Tyler Warren, like motion, like you can line him up anywhere. You can use him however you want. And it's a little bit more of a, how is he used versus what can he do question. Yeah. And he wasn't asked he wasn't used the same way Tyler Warren was used. Obviously, that offense didn't run the same way. So when you're looking at a Penn State versus if you go watch the games, you're like, okay, this is something where they're actually not that different in terms of style and like cut from this type of cloth. But Loveland actually has a very interesting, like he's, like I said, a little younger, a little bit more potential to do that, like just like a Sam Laporta, which we know how that worked out. So yeah. I felt like that pairing made a ton of sense. I think people sometimes just look at the bottom line stat and they're like, Tyler Warren's the best tight end in this one because he played in the hardest division and he had the best stats. Well, okay, you could make that argument, but that's like what you would make the argument for like giving him like a last year award for the best tight end award, not a forward-looking projection award for who's going to be the most useful in an offense. And if there's someone who I believe knows how to use a tight end and pick the one he wants, you got to give credit to your head coach because he's done it before. So it's not like you're asking him to pick a off-ball linebacker. You're asking him to do the thing that he's best suited to do.
Wait, I hope that wasn't a shot at our boy Ruben Hippolyte because that is now a friend of the Shine season.
I'm just saying that's not like if you're choosing between 1A and 1B or 1A and 1C, depending, some people had, whatever, like you're asking a guy who has proven that he can do it before, which one he likes best.
Yeah.
Take his word for it. Like, why would I ask? That's his specialty.
I heard it was very close. Like I heard the Bears were fine with either one of them to the point where they were trying to trade back, saying like, okay, and if we lose, whomever the Colts take, we'll just take the other guy. Didn't get a great deal. Obviously worked out. They ended up with Colston Loveland. What was the reaction there in Green Bay though? Was there a lot of shock? Because like, I don't know. I saw like there was some blog of some kid ripping off a jersey and throwing it. I'm like, and it was on Instagram. And I'm like, this is so contrived because it's a Justin Fields jersey, number one. You're probably a Packers fan. You went to Ross and you're like, I found a Bears. I'll do this. And regardless of whoever the Bears pick, I'm going to rip this jersey off and just toss it into the night. But what was the feeling? I mean, when you're backstage, you're actually around decision makers when you're working, where people are like, that's probably a pretty good pick for Ben Johnson.
Yeah. To be honest, the crowd reaction, there's two reasons why you can't trust it. Number one, they could have said, I'm picking, we're picking Patrick Mahomes, and they would have been like, boo! Like it doesn't freaking matter. Like you were getting booed. The other reason for this that makes it more intense is there is the stat that I'm not allowed to say on NFL Network, so don't clip this part off. Make your actual listeners listen to it. There was more booze consumed on Thursday in Green Bay, where it's a smaller city, than in 3 full days in Detroit and 3 full days in Kansas City. So to be fair, these people were having a great time, and they were just going to get fired up about pretty much anything. So
I love it. That's the way. Listen,
too. Like it should be fun. You do think Bears fans were going to like any Packers pick? No.
No. All that now. That's honestly though. When I did my mock draft with a twist, I actually had Marcus Golden. Well, my thing is like, here's who teams should pick.
Yeah.
And I had Colston Loveland go. Yep. I had Colston Loveland going before, like not even getting to 10. Because I had Jacksonville staying at 5. I love what they did. I love going up and getting Travis Hunter. Wonderful move. But I'm like, you guys should take Tyler Warren or whomever. And then the Jets should not pass on a tight end. If Colston Loveland, I think it's a mistake. I thought last year the Jets should have taken Brian Thomas Jr. I thought this year they should have taken one of the tight ends who was available to them. They're going to probably end up being disappointed at some point. But when I was doing it, like I'm looking at these picks. I had Marcus Golden going to the Panthers based on Steve Smith not liking Ted McMillan. And I'm like, well, if Steve doesn't like him, then I don't like him. Listen to me. I'm like, my friend here doesn't like him, so I don't like him. This is the way we ride here at the NFL Network. But it's cool. But like Steve studies this, and I know how much work Steve puts into these wide receivers. I used to do a lot of shows with him, and so I'd spend a lot of time just talking ball with him. And now mostly we talk golf and stuff like that. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, but I like Marcus Golden. And then when the Packers were picking, I'm like, God, they're going to pick a receiver. And it's going to end up being Marcus. Actually, you know who I was worried about was this kid. Now, you did mock draft live, path to the draft. You did all that stuff. What I don't know which one I did, but I did one of them. I did whatever one Hytham does.
Mock draft live. Mm-hmm.
There it is. They were telling me when they were doing my thing, and I don't know if this is good or bad. Like, hey, you know what? We're getting to talk a lot of people that we haven't talked about this whole year. You know, Rhett Lewis has come on to do his thing, and blah blah blah, and Mike Yam.
They do that to me too.
Which is like, did they? Yeah, and I don't know if it. Well, and in a way, they're correct because one of the guys that we talked about that they were stoked to talk about, like we're so happy to talk about him, was Luther Burden. And I had Luther Burden. I said, Buffalo, do not let this guy get past you. Like you cannot, you have to take Luther Burden the third. He is imperative for your offense. Like I know he gets a lot of Debo comps. I saw more like Stephon Diggs-esque type of things. But speak to me about Luther Burden because I'm wild for him. I think he's like, I loved him. And this is not, now that he's picked by the, no. I had him as a first rounder. I think he's a great player. And I was actually going out there and trying to watch the tackle. And I'm like, God, who's this number 3 guy? Like, he's amazing. What do you think about Luther Burden?
I like Luther Burden. I think he gets dinged because he wasn't playing in, the Big Ten or the Pac-10. Like he was, or not the Pac, excuse me, the SEC. But
hey, he's at Missouri.
Right.
But he's not in a big, I mean, that's the thing about Missouri. No. It sneaks up on you. You're like,
it does sneak up on you, but 100%. It's not like
it's not Alabama.
It's not Alabama. It's not Penn State. It's not Michigan. It's not Ohio State. It's not whatever. But I think he does get a little dinged for that because of, the quarterback wasn't someone that was on anyone's radar. Like it maybe a little bit, but not like, he's not at one of these primo places. So that probably dinged him a little bit. I like his yak. I think the Debo comp comes from the yak, but I think that's because he had to, not because he that was all. It wasn't like his, there's your bag of tricks and then there's like your bread and butter. And I don't think it's his bread and butter. I think it's in his bag of tricks. So I actually liked the DJ Moore comp better. He's versatile. He's got a lot of yak. I mean, the body type, I think, is what gets the Debo, because people often do comps based on like height, weight, speed. Like they look for those types of molds, and that's not always very helpful. I mean, it's just usually not. So you have to look at like style of play. And I think that Luther Burden, and it's not to say you're adding, it's not DJ Moore is something you could have multiples of. He's not like a Tyreek Hill where it's, slot go. Yeah. Like there's a lot of route versatility there. And I think that it will be an opportunity to make defenses at least have to stay honest. Yeah.
And it's true. And I really like that. I thought he was a very dynamic player. And honestly, we were talking, and some of the shows leading up to the draft, I thought because of my mock draft, I was like, I had Mason Graham because I manipulated it to Mason Graham falls to 10. Like, how did this happen? But I'm also a fantasy dork, and I'm like, more teams should take receivers and offensive players, and 2 tight ends should go in the top 10, which would have allowed Mason Graham to go down there and fall to number 10. Luther Burden was a player. I even said it. I said, listen, if the Bears go defense, if they take somebody on the defensive line and they need, I still think and I was going into the draft, I'm like, they still need an offensive player. Like they really do. Right. Luther Burden is somebody to target because he might fall out of the first round, which I think is a mistake. So the Bears go out there, they get Colston Loveland. Obviously, Cole Kmet's there. They take Luther Burden. You're comparing him. The comp to DJ Moore is there. Fans always have this weird thing, too, of well, now we've got him. Let's trade him away. I think the Bears need to keep everybody. You've seen Ben Johnson, and this isn't hey, you're a Lions fan, but you've been watching Ben Johnson's career since his time at Miami and all that stuff. I feel like you need more. No, we just got a bunch of good players. Why would anybody want to get rid of them?
And also let's talk about when you would get rid of someone. And if let's say you have surplus value, meaning you have, something that you could potentially create as a trade asset. You don't do it now. You don't know. Now they do a few walkthroughs together. Woo! We know everything. No. In the future, perhaps you could create an asset that is tradable to get something better. But you have to remember there's two sides of that trade. You don't just automatically get the thing you want for the trade. Like, sure, like it'd be nice to be like, hey, give me if someone were to call the front office and say, I'm going to give you a first round pick for DJ Moore, they'd consider it because that's a first round pick. But that's not what's on the table right now. You have to, think about the reality of what's actually there. Just be grateful that you have a much improved O-line, and that was done through free agency, and some reinforcement with the draft, but free agency. And then you now have a few more pass catching assets for Ben Johnson to leverage with the quarterback. You've got that QB position, at least hopefully as the sophomore step up will be aided by the fact that the O-line will not keep this guy under pressure every other drop back. So, I just don't worry about trading anyone away at this point. Worried about the 53. That is, if you're a Bears fan and you have any team that has a quarterback, worry about the 53. Don't worry about what assets you could potentially be harnessing for the future. Now, I wouldn't say this to the Saints. Yeah. If someone came to the Saints and were like, hey, we will give you X for Tyrann Mathieu, I'd at least consider it because we need to stockpile in the case that Tyler Shuck ain't it.
Yeah. That's a great point. When I think about the New Orleans Saints and I'm starting to do like fantasy stuff and I'm looking at like Chris Olave, I'm like, the Saints are probably going to be trailing in a bunch of games.
Right.
They're going to throw the ball a ton. Do I take him?
Tyler Shuck does have a big arm. Tyler, he's also like 26. So he's mature. Like Bo Nix was old too.
Yeah. When you draft a quarterback who's already old enough to rent a car, you're in a different world than a lot of these people. And back in the day, like when like BYU would send these kids on missions and like Ty Detmer's joining the league at 27. You're like, okay, like this guy, we're going to know pretty quick. That's why I was so big into Bo Nix last year. I'm like, this guy's been around. Like he knows what he's doing. It's so funny. By the way, speaking of Bo Nix, I went out the other day and I got some sports cards and it was a Bo Nix card. And I was so stoked on it. And by the way, if you're a collector, Windy City Sports Cards is the place to go. It's blurred. There it is. And by the way, Windy City Sports Cards, they specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports, whether you are a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, or Fire. We've got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. And in addition to their Chicago-focused items, they do have a wide variety of players who you might like on other teams. Again, because I'm now part of an honorary member of the Denver Broncos Mile High team fan base.
I'm doing preseason there again.
I went to Denver earlier this year to go to Golf Tech, and amazing. I loved him. Golf Tech.
Oh, I thought you said golf camp. I'm like, I need to hear everything about this.
We need you to go. We need to get you into Golf Tech because I think you'd love it because it's so much analytics. I'm so into it. And it's, it speaks to what we do a lot of analytics, project, like all these things that are going on. And speaking of which, we got some NFC teams win projections that we're going through. You had just to let everybody know. Go to NFL.com. What's your vanity? Do you have a vanity handle?
/Frelund. NFL.com Frelund.
Frelund. We have the Eagles at 11. Commanders 10.2. Lions 10. I'm not hitting any of these. I'm with you on the 49ers and the Rams. I have both those teams right around 9 wins now. For your win totals, I guess if I'm saying the Rams, when I'm doing the predictions though, and I will let people know this, that not everybody's going to be 2-14. So it's just, you got to be like, there's going to be some weird things that happen. The Rams were one of those teams that I'm like, well, I can give away a couple of the Rams wins and still have them win the NFC West and kind of even up. Because I'm really into teams like, I think the Carolina Panthers are going to be good this year. I actually have the Carolina Panthers.
What's good?
I have them winning the division with 9 wins.
9 wins. Okay. Wait. Let's just this matters for the NFC West. This matters for the NFC West. Because if you're saying they're good at 9 wins, that's still great for the NFC West because the West plays the NFC South and the AFC South as their rotational ones. So if the NFC West isn't good, sell.
Yeah. because I have I have the Rams, Cardinals, and 49ers. I'm taking the Frelund approach. Rams, Cardinals, and 49ers all at 9 wins. The Seahawks at 8. I'm like, I'm taking the coward's way out. Did I accidentally have the Packers for you know what's funny though is I painted myself into a corner with the Commanders, and I'm like, it'll be funny when it comes out. The Commander, there's nothing I could do to make the Commander fans come around on me. Like if I predicted the Commanders were going to win 12 games, they'd be like, you're an idiot. It should be 14. They broke you. Like if you did that, they'd be like, we broke you so bad that you think we're going to win this. Or the argument is the argument. You have the Packers at 9 wins, which is probably fair. We have the
thing about the Packers. I had to project it with Jair Alexander playing, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, at some point in May, you have to make some assumptions, and you know, I assume that, but I actually don't like. It feels like that's a underrated storyline in a division that's very difficult. That, and if he's not playing, or if he isn't right, like, you know, he feels like one of the more like he does swing wins. He's an important piece of that. So if he somehow doesn't play, it would shift the Packers down more, because I don't think that the difference is it's razor thin margins. The Lions have an awful schedule, but pretty small margins between the other 3 teams. And JJ McCarthy being completely unknown introduces a ton of volatility into their schedule as well. So, I mean, the margins, like I said, the margins, if you're a Bears fan, you're like, well, John not playing. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true. And you talk about JJ McCarthy, a player that I'm really excited about. JJ McCarthy is going to be a player that I draft a ton of in fantasy, because when you look, to me, like you look at what Brock Purdy's been able to do in San Francisco, JJ McCarthy is coming into the league as a much highly regarded prospect. And again, this is the same thing when you're doing the Colston Loveland and when you look at just numbers, like it's not fair for Michigan players because they don't play football like they play in the NFL. And you got to be like, they're going to benefit from walking into an NFL. It's kind of like, not like Jordan going from but Jordan played it. Like if you ever went back and watched Michael Jordan in college, it would be the wildest thing that you've ever seen in your life. Because you're like, what is Dean Smith doing? Why doesn't he let Jordan be Jordan? He's like, no, you had to play in the construct of this team with James Worthy and Sam Perkins. And Jordan shows up when he makes the big plays when you need him to. But like Michigan players are kind of like that. And not saying that they're the greatest of all time, but it's like you're confined because of that. So I think JJ McCarthy is great.
Here's my thing about JJ. He didn't have like a fake injury. So that's not a easy. So my question is the benefit of having watched last year and then the marginal decrease in his potential, like where does that balance out? That's where the volatility is, because I'm not suggesting that, like he's young, I get it, but like he didn't have one snap before getting hurt. So are you a rookie, or are you like rookie plus because like you now watched a bunch of things and you know how to be a pro because you've gone through the meetings and the kind of the cadence of it. I don't know. And then plus, like, how do you feel? Like, are you okay? Like that. Those are all, to me, that break point is really hard to forecast. I mean, you still got, Justin Jefferson helps a little bit, like that. A little bit, that offense helps. But if you're messed up and, meaning physically, and then you have to like get used to, I don't know, but we'll have to see a lot in preseason.
No, I understand. And that makes a lot of sense. And I agree. Like everything you said is fair. What else is fair is your projections. And I want to go over this really, I want to go into this. And I feel like it's favorite. You don't have the Bears picked for last in the NFC. Nope. And here's the thing. I want to let everybody know as well. And I mentioned this off the top when I'm looking over the totals. These are conservative estimates. The Eagles are the number 1 team in the NFC, according to your model, 11 wins. So remember, somebody's going to win 13 games, probably 14 games this year. But the model will not project that high. I've known this, having to work together for a long time. You're like, this is a fair model. So when I sat there, and I'll be honest with you, I'm like, I'm going through, I'm like, it's going to be 6 something. And I'm like, and I'm ready to be mad. And I go through and it's 8.9. And I'm like, okay, and the Packers are at 9. The Lions, I believe, are at 9. if I remember this correctly.
They're all like it's like marginally different.
And the Vikings and the Vikings aren't far behind.
No, it's the closest division by far. And like that is, I think, pretty fair. Like I think most people be like, all right, like we get it. Because you have to remember, like people are funny because they count things as whole numbers. Like so if you just to be fair, if you were to say each game, I'm 60% chance win, you're 40, because it's not even. 60 times 17 games, you get 10.2 wins. Just so that's where those numbers become so low looking, like because it's like this one's 57%, this one's 62, this one's 48, this one's what. So you have to add those all together. You can't just be like 1-0, 1-0. Because as of right now, there's no team in any, like even the Browns versus, the Eagles, if they played each other, wouldn't be 100-0.
Yeah.
There's always a chance,
Of course. Yeah. I mean, and it's the NFL, and it's going to probably be closer to 50-50 more than people want to believe.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes it so good. We have teams go from worst to first, like, I mean, what was it? 8 increased wins for the Commanders last season, your favorite fan base. Like that, not to say, I mean, that huge of an increase doesn't happen very often, but we always have teams go from 4th in their division to winning the division. That happens. The 49ers could easily do it this year with their cakewalk schedule compared to, their unique opponents are much easier than the Rams' unique opponents.
And you were mentioning this too, because the Bears have 4 unique opponents that are not favorable. But you pointed out that one of the things that benefits the Bears is how they are spread out.
Yes. I mean, if you're looking at things that forecast for success, now we can't necessarily call Ben Johnson a first-time play caller, but he's a first-time head coach. So when you're looking at but it makes a big difference if you're a first-time play caller, make things very different. So in the beginning,
we're aware. We've seen it.
Makes things very different. Anytime you like short weeks, even later in the season, people are always like, oh, the beginning of the season, if it's short weeks, is that like, if you look at the math, you have to look at how many times you're playing wonky schedules. So if you were to say, okay, what's the best? 1 p.m. games Eastern, 12 Central would be the best configuration if you could have all 17, because it makes the schedule very regular, but that's just not how the schedule works. Like it's not how any of this stuff works. But the reality is how many times are you doing something weird where you're now the first time head coach? Like Andy Reid, we always talk about Andy Reid coming off of a bye. Well, a lot of that's because Andy Reid knows how to be a head coach. He knows how to do all this stuff. So there's always some things where, but the Bears actually, they're pretty fortunate from the standpoint of, I mean, even the home opener, they're in good shape. Like all of the September schedule, based on what it could have been, is quite favorable. Yeah,
you have them starting off 4-3. I think is what you said, which
Who
is
would
fine.
Be mad about that? I mean, Bears fans, because you guys are never happy, but that's pretty good.
But I think, well, there are bye weeks in week 5, and I think 3-1 is attainable because you have the Minnesota game on Monday Night Football. Then you play the Lions.
I mean, that's not weird because it's the beginning. It is still weird. It is still a weird schedule because you're waiting and you're playing it like it's, even though it's not a like you have a ton of time to prep for it, you're now making the next week short. Yeah.
And then the next week is obviously they go on the road to play the Lions, getting that one out of the way. And it's interesting because the Lions start off with Green Bay. Like they didn't really help out the Lions too much.
No, the Lions schedule's a nightmare.
Like I felt like they should have thrown the Lions a bone in the fact of like, and I don't know if you guys play Tennessee, but like, or New Orleans. Oh, you play New Orleans, right? No. I'm trying to remember, but like,
no, because we get the Bucs. New Orleans is one of the South is the one that's the variable one. So the Lions get the Bucs while you get the Saints.
We get the Saints. Honestly, though, so I have the Saints winning 2 games this year, and you'll see this. It'll get revealed, and I'm going to spoil it a little bit for anybody who's waited into 45 minutes.
That's why Puma got so sad.
Is I had the Saints beating the Bears. There's like, what? Like I'm like, no, think of like they play the Commanders in week 6. And if they win that game, as I expect them to win, the Saints the next week is the trappiest game of all time. Where you're
the bear trap.
The bear trap. Like they're gonna do this because we can't be too excited. There's not like you got a lot of these things. I'll tell you, I did not pick them to win 12 games this year. and be like, this is how broken I am. We'll see. You'll have to find it.
I don't think you should. Like, I think you should pick them. Like, it'd be better for everyone involved, every single one involved, if the expectations were set a little bit lower. I know that's not as much fun to say, but like, make it a climb. Don't make it already there. Because, you know, sometimes when you pop too early, like look at the Giants now. Remember, they went to the playoffs and actually beat the Vikings in a playoff game like 4 years ago. And now look, nightmare fuel. So like, let's do a steady climb as opposed to like, bam, boom. Like you have to play a hard, like just nice, steady climb. If it's not going to be, you know, playoff bound, like nice, steady climb. And maybe that's me being like, you know, it's not being a Lions fan because I don't, the Lions, whatever.
Well, I'm going to have you join JP Finley, who covers the Commanders. Give them that lesson. Cause everybody in DC thinks they're going to the Super Bowl.
Correct.
And like, if you guys think that you were, I'll let them, they can come after me. They're going to come after me anyways. It doesn't matter what I say.
It's really hard. Like you play a fourth place schedule. You play it's so much different than even a second place schedule. So, you know, unless and the Commanders are in awesome shape. When you have a quarterback, you're in awesome shape, but sometimes it takes a hot minute to like get back into that flow that you were in the end of last season, especially when it's not like the Eagles are like, we're going to let you have this one. Here you go. Yeah. Like, you know, that's not how it goes.
Yeah. And, you know, and again, I still retain the right to be a touch skeptical about Cliff Kingsbury and everything. Like, we'll see what happens now when there's expectations and everything like that. But I think that at some point he might be like, I should have left, but who knows? Maybe Jaden Daniels is him and goes out and does his thing. And if he does, then congratulations to him, but I'm not going to worry about it. I still like our guy. Do you believe, when you're getting prepared to do this, how much of an impact does it? Like, obviously the Bears went out there, rebuilt the interior of their offensive line. Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonas Jackson, great additions. 2 extra guys on offense. Ryan, your guy Ryan Poles did not go defense. I was scared that we were going to go. I thought like, oh, Will Johnson's there. We're going to take a corner. But he really put the onus on the offensive side of the football. When you're projecting this stuff, how much, without giving up too much of the formula, but like how much do you put like, yeah, this is really going to make a huge difference?
Well, you have to play to your strengths. So if you're not going to see what your quarterback is, like you need to know who your quarterback is, because on a rookie deal, you know, this is the time that you can configure how it's going to look. Remember Lamar Jackson, you know, when he first hit the league, it's like, whoa, like we got Michael Vick 2.0, like, and now you have to like remake tight ends and you have to refigure out how it's going to work. And then, by the way, then you have to like redo it again when the line has to change over. But like, you know, figure out, set the most valuable position in any major sport, quarterback. Set this guy up for success so that you don't have to be solving for quarterback again in 2 years. And do it in your head coach's first year, by all means, especially if you're hiring a guy specifically for his ability to craft an offense. Because if you don't do that, then what were you asking Ben Johnson to spin gold out of like nothing, like out of wool? Like that's not going to happen. Play to the strengths. The defensive pieces, they are, I'm not going to like, this doesn't sound sexy, but it's not like there's a ton of deficiencies. There may not be a lot of excess, but there's not a ton of deficiencies.
Yeah.
Add where you're going to play to your strengths and allow, like, it's okay to be like a little better than average or even, you know, incremental, especially if you're going to be in a position where your offense gets you a bajillion points, then you have an easier opportunity on defense because you know they're going to be throwing. So you can anytime you can minimize the options on defense and make it so that you have a better idea of what the offense is going to do, you're setting your players up for success. This is the path that they're choosing to do that. And that is smart because it is both what your play caller is, and now you'll know a lot more about your quarterback.
And it's interesting too. Obviously the Bears, I agree with you. Not a lot of deficiencies. Maybe not, you know, this surplus. Incredible.
There's not a lot of surplus, but there's not a lot of right.
And you know what? Matt Eberflus, for all his faults, did a pretty good job when he took over as defensive coordinator. But I will say, Dennis Allen coming in is that was such a good one. And then I hate to say this, but he's a Bear now, so I don't care where he played in the NFL. But Al Harris coming in immediately, one of the biggest things was we need to reach players like Tyreek Stevenson, who is absolutely talented, but just does things where you're like, what are you doing, dude? If they can get that reined in, I think that this Bears, especially the secondary, could be really good this season.
And if the secondary is helped by the fact that the defense can't disguise, or the defense doesn't have to disguise much because the offense is like going to do whatever, that will help too. Simplifying the offense will help the defense too. And so if your theory is just like the Lions did as well, score a crap ton of points and it really helps your defense out. And that is what the Lions did to beat the Vikings in that last game before the playoffs, because, they had like 19 players on injured reserve. It wasn't like they were playing with a full deck of cards. And what they did was they were just like, we're going to go hammer points so that the defense gets an easier look. And we know that they're going to be throwing and that's going to put pressure and we're going to be able to pressure Sam Darnold. Blah, blah, blah. It worked out, but that was good until it didn't work against the Commanders. But, it was the strategy that they had. And that's what Ben Johnson's used to. So I think the strategy will be lots of points and help the defense out also through that. Like I said, if your defense 16, exactly average next season, and you improve on offense, you're going to see a massive uptick in the number of wins for a lot of reasons, but you're also playing the fourth place schedule. There we go. So you don't need to be defense one. It helps, but not everyone can have defense number one, right? Offense can help the defense. It's complementary football. Like Bo Nix was significantly helped by his defense. It's not going to be the case for Caleb Williams. It wasn't last year. But if you're saying now the offense can make it easier on the defense, great. That'll work too. Win's a win.
What do you make of everything that came out with Caleb Williams recently? Where hey, he initially didn't want to go to the Bears, which to me, I'm like, I in some ways can't blame. KOC is somebody I wouldn't mind playing for as well. Now that Ben Johnson is in there and everything is looking great, you drafted all these studs. Is this a non-issue? Is just thanks Seth Wickersham for bringing this up, but it doesn't matter anymore because Ben Johnson's here?
I mean, it's unfortunate that it came out the way it did. What I think happened, if you're asking me, is, when you play at USC, you're a little sheltered from especially because he was kind of there with sort of transferee, non-transferee, COVID, whatever. You don't have to do the media training in the way that maybe you should. And the media training, I believe, my heart believes that he was trying to compliment Ben Johnson. I don't think he was trying to put down another regime or the Bears as an organization as much as he was trying to say, I'm excited to play for this guy. I just don't think he got it out of his mouth in a way that the media didn't I think it was sort of taken out of context. I'm not saying he didn't say it. I'm not disputing what Seth Wickersham wrote, none of that. But I think if you were to be hey, what did you really mean here? I think he would just be I'm really excited to play for a coach that feels like he's going to make me good. Right. If I could redo his notes, I would tell him that. But, you didn't see him, remember, after losses and stuff, SC didn't make him talk to the media.
Yeah.
So now you have NFL media, which is they're scrutinizing every word. I wouldn't know anything about that, Baker Mayfield. But they're scrutinizing how all of it works. So you have to be mindful that just keep your compliments. And that's it.
And for our resident Lions fan who trolls the comment section here, let's talk a moment about the Lions losing both coordinators, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn.
Hate it.
Big impact, yeah?
Huge. Because, it's a compliment to the line. Okay, let's call it like it is. It's a very big compliment to the Lions as an organization. I don't think that we've had a coordinator really go anywhere better. Usually it's worse. They get fired and have to rebuild their career, like Jim Schwartz had to. Defensive coordinator of the Browns now. So it's a compliment to how far the Lions have come in as an organization, that they have two people snatched away to be head coaches, which is great. The problem that the Lions have is replacing that kind of brain power is not easy, especially when now the expectation is success. It's not, you're not sitting there lie downs. Nobody calls them that anymore. And so now you're stepping into a situation where You have a team that has proven it can win, and you have the pieces. You have the quarterback, you have the O-line, you have the pieces that should forecast for wins, and your head coach isn't a play caller. So, like, I mean, he's a great interview, but like, let's see what happens now. I don't feel great about it.
It's going to be tough. Sorry, Don Burr, but it's going to be real tough. But listen, what's not tough is sitting here spending an hour with you. I'm sorry. When I asked you to come on, I didn't expect. I was like, well, we'll bring her on for a few, but then
I love it.
It's been a great opportunity to catch up. What else we got going on? When are we gonna see you back on the NFL Network? I think you have a couple of you have a GMFB date coming up. Yeah.
Yes, June 5th. It's gonna be
June 5th.
Thrilling. June 5th.
Thursday, June 5th.
Listen, who doesn't want to talk about football on June 5th?
Oh, this is usually when I shine because they usually are like throw me into the
Well, that's because you're funny. That's because you're funny. Mine's like, how do we give me an update on where we stand in the NFC South? And you're like, 9 wins is probably going to win the division yet again. Bum, 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 bum.
That's what I almost had them all for 8, like somebody winning the division with 8 and 9 wins. But I do have the Panthers. I'm giving away so much here today. Panthers with 9 wins.
You got to get like that. It's like, you got to give them a taste. There's still like 30 teams you haven't mentioned their win totals on. So just because you gave them 2, just give them a little taste, Frank.
Little taste. They'll be ready to go. That'll be coming out shortly. And because we did it in the NFL Network studios, it'll be out even quicker. But listen, always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. I know that we're going to be playing some golf soon. You got some other things coming. I got a couple other things coming up. Whatever. They might be a little busy a couple of weeks in June, but whatever.
But tater tots will be involved, so it's good.
Tots. I was gonna say no until I heard tater tots. Oh, right. and I get to pick a song. No, but listen, always a pleasure having you on. Sorry that it took so. Oh wait, I tried to get you on during the draft. You're like, I'm flying, idiot.
No, I would have.
I'm actually important enough to go to the draft. I don't have to sit at home in my basement.
I swindle my way there, No.
But it's good. I'm glad we were able to get you on right now. Sorry for everybody. We didn't take any questions, but you know what? Next time Greg's on, we'll take all the questions in the world. We'll make it up to you that way. But thank you so much for being here. Go to NFL.com/Frelund to go check out the win projections and all the great stuff that she does. She's absolutely the best in the business. I don't mind putting my name to that. We thank her so much. So Cynthia, thank you for being here. And for her,
Ranker, thank you for having me.
You're the best. All right. So for Cynthia, I'm Adam. One Pride, bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.